Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Thursday, March 11th, 8 a.m. Thank you very much for joining us today, those of you that are here. So let's take a look at what we have to cover today. The plan for today is this. We have a TED Talk that I'd like to talk to you about, and we have five more questions to come up with based on the lecture that you guys watched. Okay. Welcome, Larissa. Um, Based on a lecture that you guys watched, and after that, if we were in face-to-face real class, what we spent the rest of the time is we broke into small groups, and everybody talked to each other about their speech, kind of like talked through it, like here's my attention getter, here's my closing statement, kind of stuff like that. And then I went around and also asked everyone um, what their credibility was, because that is a concept a lot of people really struggle with, is how to figure out how to talk about credibility. So that tells me that it's a very legitimate concern. For a lot of people, frankly, we're uncomfortable patting ourselves on the back. I don't know what that is. I mean, in a sense that it could be a number of things, many, many different things, why we don't do that, why we don't feel comfortable doing that. But when we're giving a speech, it is really important that people pay attention. Otherwise, what's the freaking point, right? And one of the very good ways to get people to pay attention is to explain to them why you're credible, not why the topic is credible. I don't need you to explain to me why Kobe Bryant was amazing. I need you to explain to me why you are somebody that I should spend my time listening to. So even though it's like counterintuitive, we need to be able to do that. One nice way to do that, I think one of the differences between bragging and giving yourself credit is taking out some of the emotions by using data and numbers rather than telling the story about how you scored the winning goal for your team, which is kind of obnoxious. Like, look at me, I'm so great, you know. But if you say, I won I'm a wrestling championship in the state of Wisconsin twice, done. Nice, clear, that's a number. And immediately I have respect towards you if you're going to speak about wrestling because you clearly have credibility. So look at numbers when you're going to tell me about your credibility and think of your credibility in terms of numbers. Okay. But we're not doing this in person. And I looked at your outlines, and I'm not going to say I was horrified, but I was kind of underwhelmed by a lot of people. And I'm like, ah, let's fix this. So some of you did perfect. And it's always a test for me to see how well I was able to explain something to you. Because if everybody misses something, I go, maybe I didn't talk about that enough. But if one person gets everything right, then I'm go, well, somebody got it. Like, I don't know. That's weird. Um, so let's take a look. So then I'm going to talk to each one of you individually. And that's my plan for the rest of the time after we do the questions, we do the TED Talk, is just to talk to you and make sure that you're clear. Because looking at your outlines, I got the feeling that many of you are not clear. And I really just want to bring some clarity into your experience because you can write words, you know words, you have vocabulary, but you look at this and go, what do I do here? Not all of you, some of you did perfect. It's just like, boom, like, oh, okay, that's really nice. And I'm not looking at anybody. This is much easier online because I'm just looking at the camera. Otherwise, in real life, everyone's like, is he talking about me? Am I bad? Am I good? What's going on? Here, I'm just looking at the camera. Okay, so that's the plan. Let me begin by having a sip of coffee. Mm. Let's talk a little bit about outlines in very general terms so that when we speak one-on-one, more or less, you will have a better understanding of what I'm looking for, what I was looking for. Everybody starts out with 75 points. That's what you got. That's the maximum number of points. After that, I look at, frankly, transitions, because that seems to be the thing that at least like everybody almost missed at least one transition, because there were four hidden in the outline. And I look at this exactly this way. I look at this and go, did they follow the rules? Did they put the right part where the right parts go? And I was much less critical, and I'm really very little critical about your main points, because it's your judgment. What are the three things you want to tell us? That's fine. I want to see, did you organize your information, and are you able to have like a source behind this information, maybe? But that's extra. Anyway, transitions, 4 transitions, 4 points. After that, I look at the body of the speech. I go, do I know what they're going to be speaking about? And quite a few of you folks wrote such short things that I really don't know what you're going to be speaking about. And there was one wonderful person who explained to me what she will be speaking about, but didn't actually outline it. I was a little confused. Like, here's what's going to go. I'm like, well, put it there. Again. So again, I just want to bring some clarity, because if you guys are unclear, if the topic is too broad, let's narrow it down and let's get this figured out. And then after that, the main important point that I think most people missed, but it didn't cost you a point. It's going to cost you a point in presentation and in persuasive speech. But many people end their outlines with such boring closing remarks that I thought I warned you. I asked you, please don't just put thank you. I hope you're better informed now. And so many of you did. And us, leave us. Oh, and that's the other thing that a lot of people made a mistake. You guys, on your closing remarks, made a call to action. Call to action is telling somebody what to do. Imagine that. Not every situation ends with a call to action. And what's weirder is when we do get to persuasive speeches, a lot of people will leave out call to action. So there's real confusion there about when to tell people what to do and when not. So this is informative speech. So call to action at the end is inappropriate for the assignment. Please end your speech with a fact or a story or a quote, something memorable, but something that doesn't tell us what to do now. You know, oh, I had such a great time at this park. Now you should go. No, don't tell, just say, and this park was visited by 1 billion people last year. Okay, great, awesome. I should go probably. You know, kind of leave it up to us a little bit. So those are some areas where I saw people get confused. Others just entirely omitted sources, which is like so many points. Please fix it and resubmit it. Let me know you resubmitted it so I could regrade it. I'll take off some points because it's late, but you're losing such chunks of points if you don't have annotated bibliography, which is writing 3 sentences. And really, I do mean 3 sentences because I am counting. So 3 sentences to 5 sentences. If you have a lot to say, write more, but at least 3 sentences for each of your sources without using personal pronouns. Again, most people heard personal pronouns, no, and most of you did it. So that tells me that I did a reasonably good job explaining that. Okay, so write a paragraph, have a source. I am giving you a lot of leeway for your best attempt at APA, but if you're just going to put a link there, that's not APA citation, because frankly, if this was printed, I couldn't press finger on it and go there, so it doesn't really work. Plus, there's formats. APA, part of the reason for the citation the way it is to show who the author is, real, like create clarity, but at the same time, take some of the sexism out of it, for instance, because you have just the first initials of the author, so you don't know if this is a female or male, and because we do judge people implicitly, APA takes a nice job of taking those biases out to the best of their ability and just creating clarity. Who is the author? When was this published? So try to do that. You know, that's APA citation. Anyway, going up backwards. I think topics were fine. Topics were good for the most part. Couple seemed like people were really, again, not clear and trying to overthink things. Guys, in a way, this is a very simple thing if you can just simplify things, but do them sufficiently completely. I think that's about it for the main areas where I saw most people have some kind of a lack of clarity. Next, what I would like to talk about is our midterm, which we are nearing, and this is great. This is a different way of doing a midterm. I recognize this, and it's I'm kind of going against the system here, because rather than saying don't talk to each other, I'm saying do talk to each other, compare notes, network, figure out who the other people in the class are. It's also going to make you less nervous. And you can study in study groups, you can do it however you want to, and you know the information. But if you don't do the work, you're not going to do well on the midterm. And so in a way, I feel like the way I designed this is to put pressure on you. And that's where I'm asking, like, if you're going to come up with a hard questions or easy questions or whatever. But the only reason I'm saying it is because I heard from university that somebody had questions and answers for the midterm. And I was like, exactly. Good. That's what you should be doing. So this is not cheating because you are trying to follow the instructions. Good job. Share screen. Midterm. Okay. Also, if anybody wants to look on the syllabus for our class and confirm when is our midterm, because I have my suspicions, but I'm looking at a different document right now.
Well, that was short-lived.
You're muted.
Who said that last thing that my computer decided to shrink and unshrink this program? Did somebody suggest a date for the midterm? As in, looked at the syllabus.
We did not hear you ask. You were frozen for a solid 2 minutes.
As soon as you put the document up, you cut out.
Oh, well, that's for the best then. I think sometimes universe knows better. All right, so can you see the document? You can't see the document. Okay, let me try to share it and not mute myself. Okay. So we're looking at 5 more questions, and really what I was trying to figure out and ask you to look up is when is our midterm? Am I muted now? No, I'm not muted now. Nice. All right, and looking at informative speech outline, then looking at syllabus. Will somebody beat me to it? No. 3:30. All right, I found it first. Yay! I get the extra. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so our midterm is on 3:30, but I think we're gonna have 5 more questions, and then we're probably gonna, I think, maybe 5 more after this. So we're gonna be at 35. And then we're gonna have informative speeches, presentations. Yep, and then we'll have the midterm after that. Okay, so we'll have, I think, 10 more questions, 5 this week, 5 next, and that's it. That's it. For
I have a
the
quick question.
yes, please, Peter.
Would that be on the 1st of April for us?
Yes, yes, indeed. If this,
Okay.
if that is Tuesday date, if the date falls on Tuesday, my apologies. That is for the rest of the sections. Cool. So yes, that would be then April 1st. No joke.
Would we have class over spring break?
Of course you
25th.
would not. When is our spring break?
The 25th.
Okay, that is good to know. So so the 25th would be our class. Okay, good. That is good to know. Then we clearly are not going to do speeches today. So we're going to do speeches on 318 and then perhaps on 4-1. And I think on 325, 318, we're gonna have a really good idea at the end of 318, how many people went and how far we are along. Because let me look at something else here. Okay, I can stop sharing this right now because I'm looking at something different. We have a pretty full section, folks. We have close to 25 people that potentially could be giving speeches. So that means that on 25th, we're going to dive into speeches, but we're going to need at least 2 days to do that. So then that means that the midterm is going to move off until 4-8 potentially, because we want to finish the speeches first. Once again, we'll have a better idea on the 318 class, how far along we are. This potentially can mean what? This can potentially mean that we will look at having persuasive speech outlines due shortly after we give speeches. So what is possible is that we will, let's see. So like again, look at a syllabus. Persuasive speech outlines due 4-8. I think that persuasive speech outlines could conceivably still do. They do on 4-8? No, we can make them on 4-15 just fine. Okay, which would probably be, is it 4-18 or 4-10? Therefore being 17th. Is 17th a Thursday or 15th of April a Thursday?
The 15th of April is a Thursday.
Okay, good. Then see, most of the dates are correct. Okay, so then the outlines of persuasive speech are going to be due on 4-15, and I think that's our fudge factor there, is they're going to be due a week later, but then we're going to have presentations all the same on 22nd and 27th. Okay. All right. All right. And then on 4-8, we're going to have midterm or finish up speeches if we need to. Okay. Let's write this down in an announcement. That'll be a good idea. Midterm will be on April 8th. Persuasive speech outlines will be due on April 15th. Informative speeches until then. All right. Made a note of that. Very good. Well, I think at this point we might as well have some questions. So, looking for 5 questions, please.
When using your own knowledge and experience, what should be included with your speech?
And the answer would be?
Pictures, stories, and artifacts.
All right. Do you want all 3?
That's, I
Yeah.
don't care one way or the other in regards to it. So
It's your question. So it is right now. That's the answer. Everybody can see it, right? Okay. Question 2.
I had name one type of reference work that can be used during research.
Okay.
Encyclopedia, yearbook, quotation book, and biographical aids.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Sydney.
I have true or false question.
All right. Go ahead, Malay.
Reaching out the highest level person to interview is good.
Reaching out to a what?
To highest level person.
Okay. For an interview is good. Reaching out to our highest, let's see.
Oh, I mean highest level.
Okay. To highest level available person for an interview is good. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Reaching out to highest level available person. True. All right. Thank you very much, Moe.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Sources should not be any older than blank years old.
And the answer is?
10.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Give one tip for doing research.
Okay.
And then the options would be start early, make a preliminary bibliography,
Okay. Preliminary bibliography. You got it. Okay.
and take notes efficiently.
All right. Very good. And we got our 5. Cool. Thank you very much. Everybody got copies. Everybody got a screenshot. You know what you're doing. Here we are. Okay, I'm stop sharing. All right. Very good. Then next, let's chat a little bit about our TED Talk, which was David J.P. Phillips. I trust you watched the right one. About death by PowerPoint. There's several takeaways in that one. So let's go to that one. Let's see. Alex, if you could go first, what was your takeaway?
My takeaway was mainly just the basic format of the PowerPoint and how it should be, like having a dark background and having like the contrast. My main takeaway is just like it bothered me that it like there is like a right way to put it together, but like me being in the military, there's like a certain format or like certain background that they want, which is like not efficient. And I know it's not efficient because they just put a whole bunch of text on there. There's like, it's a white background and there's like logos on the top. And it's just like, there's no way to deviate from them. And it just frustrates me.
Thank you, Alex. That's that's a struggle. Thank you very much. Brian, what did you think?
While I was watching, I realized I was doing basically everything wrong. So I like to do like blue backgrounds, which is not the best type, because you want to do black, what he said. Then I would also spend a lot of time focusing on the heading. So I was also doing that wrong. So it's just interesting to see what I was doing wrong and how I can fix it.
Right, and I hope that this does affect you, Brian, and everybody, because like he begins the TED Talk by talking about how, you know, we've seen all these many terrible PowerPoint presentations. We go, that's terrible, and then we go and make another one like that. So you know, there's some interesting places to change, like the background and the size of the lettering. Cool. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Larissa, did you watch it? What did you think?
I did watch it, and the main takeaway I got out is the 5 principles that there is, that the one message per slide, working memory, size, contrast, and I think that is all. Yeah, and that the magical number we have to try to stick to is 6, which I don't do often, but I should.
So which one is the key one for you? Which one would you like to address first in your presentations?
The message.
One message per slide?
Yes.
All right. All right, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, raise your hand if you experienced a high school class where they told you the maximum number of slides is, I don't know, 3, 5, something like that. Yeah, that's common. I've discovered that this week as I'm asking students to do this, like by show of hands. I learned a lot because all of a sudden turned out that most people have been fed this line of thinking. I'm not really sure why, in a sense that, okay, maybe you do not want more than 3 to 5 main points. That's fair. But I think it's okay to have more slides. Like I just don't think it's a problem. The problem is when a person stands there and reads the slide, blah, 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 blah. That is boring. Anyway, awesome. Thank you very much, Larissa. Jaden, what did you think?
I kind of just took away that not putting a bunch of sentences up on the thing, because I kind of took away from that is people are going to tend to just read the slide rather than listening to you. But if you put just like the key word down, like the term, and then you're describing the definition, then people are going to listen to you then because they need the definition to understand the term. So that's kind of what I took away from it.
That is awesome, because chances are, that's a really good observation, actually. Chances are you do have something in your speech. I think for everybody, you probably have a term or two that you could explain if you wanted to. You can use that technique if it's appropriate to do a better job explaining. Jaden, thank you very much. Moe, what did you think?
My takeaway is I think the key of the presentation or the PowerPoint is how to control people's focuses, because if on the presentation there are a lot of words and phrases, or if it's a white background, people focusing on that slide and they don't listen to me. So I think the key is how to control people's focus or concentration. So that's why I'm takeaway.
I think that's wonderful, because it is a little bit like you're almost going on a walk and you're taking your audience by the hand. and you're leading them through this forest or whatever, through this area that you need to say, like, look over there, now look over here, look over there, because otherwise they're just going to like wander off on their own, and you have to lead them from one step to the next and control their focus. Where are they looking and what are they paying attention to, and how not to overwhelm us. You know, it seems like one of the things is that people are just so easy to overwhelm. So cool. Thank you very much, Maria. I appreciate it. Let's see. Nathan, what did you think?
Okay. So I guess I was kind of interested in a lot of the mechanical parts of the presentation, like, you know, the background of it should be black, it should be. Here, actually, one thing, it was the size of the text, the ability to bring attention to points and kind of move the eyes of your attendees, or whatever you want to call them, customers. I guess I kind of thought that was interesting. But
who's consuming your outline? I don't know.
Well,
audience, how about that?
The audience, yes. That's the word I was meaning. I just didn't use it. Yeah, if that makes sense, I guess.
Right. Similarly to what Moe said about focus, what I think you're speaking is like you're a director of your PowerPoint. And
Yes.
What's the most important part in that frame right there? Is it over here? Is it over there? Where should the eye go? So you're like directing the show. Cool. Thank you very much, Nathan. I appreciate it. Phoebe, what did you think? What was your takeaway?
Well, first of all, I definitely realized that I've been doing PowerPoints wrong my whole life. I've never really been taught specifically how to do them correctly, so this was a good eye-opening experience for me. And then I really liked the part where he was talking about how the screen is a lot bigger, so you have to draw the attention to the audience to you, and you really just need to utilize the PowerPoint as like a reference and keep the focus on you.
Excellent. I do have some good news for you, Phoebe, because you're watching this and you're like, I don't know, 19, 20, 21, right? Like I'm in the right ballpark, right? In your whole life.
I'm 18.
18. Your whole life has only been 18 years. This is fantastic because now you have like, I don't know, 50, 70 years to do PowerPoints correctly and better. This is awesome. Okay. Fantastic. Phoebe, thank you very much. Maddie, what did you think?
While I was watching this, I was thinking about all of my high school classes and how they would put a restriction on it. And so I would literally try to jam as much information as I could onto one slide. And then they gave the stat that 90% of what's in your slide is gone in 30 seconds. So I thought it was very interesting that pretty much all the work that I'd put on my slides would just be gone. And I would also try to make my PowerPoint as bright as it could possibly be. So I really was doing everything wrong. So this TED Talk helped a lot.
Good. I think you weren't doing everything. I mean, you could have done more wrong, but things that you were doing, you were not doing as well as you could have. I don't know what's up with that idea about stuffing stuff on PowerPoint. I mean, I think people logically should look at it and be like, that's just too much. But there's also this whole tendency I've seen in communication sometimes to create posters for like conferences where people like look at a poster and they're just like, oh, take in the wisdom. And in a poster, I guess you get like design all these little parts to it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be simple. It can be like complex, but a PowerPoint is not a poster. And people are also listening to you. So yes, simplicity, numbers. Excellent, Maddie. Thank you very much. Sometimes, and this is part of the way that I design the list of TED Talks, because sometimes I've been assigning, and you might get assigned one too, because I'm still always fine tuning a TED Talk that you're like, I don't feel I really learned as much as I could. I'm like, all right, we're never going to show this one again to students. but so far the ones that you're liking are the ones that other students found helpful. So I'm like, all right, that's a good list then. Okay, Allie, what did you think?
I thought the contrast part was interesting, especially the part where he put the balls on the screen and people like counted them out loud. And it was more like seeing versus counting. And then he like wrapped up his point in his conclusion, like with the crossword and the memory thing.
One
That
of,
was how it came together.
one of the really nice ways that you can learn from that, I think, is that people really enjoy being part of an experiment or demonstration during the speech where we can like, we can have this moment of epiphany where we're like, wow, that was whatever. In this case, 5 is really fast because I just see 5, and 6, 7, 8, I have to like count how many dots am I seeing. And we as audience feel like personally rewarded for having participated in this. We get that a little bit with the yes or no question. Raise your hand if, because we're like, ooh, I didn't know this, as we're answering ourselves. So that was a really good one. And of course, yeah, the essence of it as well, 5 and the simplicity and not having too much stuff, too many dots. Cool. Thank you very much, Ali. I appreciate it. Sydney, what did you think?
So I thought it was interesting when he said the amount of slides isn't the problem, but the amount of objects on each slide is. And I thought going back to like how high school, they give us a limit on how many slides we can have. And I found myself also cramming everything together, but I hated doing that because it's like you can't focus on one thing. So I think it's interesting that he's like said that we can't, like we shouldn't be doing that.
Good. So he kind of affirmed what you were always suspecting. This doesn't make any sense. Right. Have more slides and simpler slides. Excellent. I will throw in there one thing while I remember this, and he doesn't know it, he doesn't mention it in his TED Talk, even though it's really not like a hidden piece of knowledge if you look for things. Really smart thing to do is after you show people a visual is to take a pause, because of everything he said. We are not reading and listening at the same time, really. We're doing either one or the other. So if you are showing us a visual, the smart thing to do is to go visual and then continue. Because just that pause of whether you take in a breath, whether you're drinking a sip of water, this is a good time where people are like, oh, I took this all in. Now I have questions. What is this? Now, so just that split second. All right. Awesome. Derek, what did you think?
Yeah, so what stuck with me was like the director or like the navigator with like the audience is like, ooh, look at this bright colors. Oh, look at this large text. So yeah. Yeah, I also like tend to like stick with like I tend to like overthink things as like well. So like I get like too much information at one time. I just can't handle it. So I'm like, I just give up. So I kind of relate to like the audience as well.
That's really nice, Derek, because to be able to think from the point of view of the audience is kind of refreshing too, because like, how are they experiencing this? Yeah, your audience, your director, yeah, very good. Thank you, Derek. Luke, what did you think, sir? It's interesting, you're unmuted, but I can't hear you. So it's something in your internal settings where if you're having a like external microphone on mute or something.
All right. I think my biggest takeaway was like the size of what we want the audience to pay attention to matters, and like if our headers the biggest thing, the likelihood of them like remembering the rest of the slide is like very low, and how like our PowerPoints should be like more, or it shouldn't be more than just like a visual aid for the viewer. It should be like to help what we're actually talking about.
Yeah, and when you talk about it, yeah, when others mention the high school experience of stuffing all this information onto the PowerPoint, you're kind of asking the attention to be shifted towards the PowerPoint away from you, because look at all the information over here. So it's a fundamental different approach where the person presenting is like an appendage to the PowerPoint. Like there's this PowerPoint with wisdom, and then there's me going, look over here, look over there, look over here. Oh, look. So you're nothing. And in this approach, it like takes it upside down or right side up maybe, and says, no, you're it. And that stuff over there on pictures, it's a few pictures, to help. Cool. Is that, Luke, does that make things easier or harder, do you feel?
Like, what do you mean? Like easier as an
If you're a
audience?
presenter, if you're a presenter and your job is to deliver this information, do you feel it's easier to like put out everything on the PowerPoint and then like you're just a little guide person? Or is it better to have simpler slides and be able to tell more?
I think it's easier if you're like not prepared to like fully speak about what you're doing to have a loaded PowerPoint. But I feel like if you know your material better, a shorter PowerPoint will do the job better.
Wise words, Luke. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Peter, what did you think? What was your takeaway?
So when I was in high school, we usually had like PowerPoints as our presentations, and we'd load up our PowerPoints to get our point across of our presentation. But what I learned in this TED Talk is that the PowerPoint is more of a visual aid, and you, the presenter, are the presentation. And another thing that I took away from the TED Talk is that when you're displaying numbers and values and stuff, you want to like darken the values you don't want people looking at, so they look at what you're talking about.
Yes, that is actually something that you may want to use simply in any chart that you demonstrate, is you want to highlight the number. I remember some really nice, smart students who would take a PowerPoint, there would be a chart and it would be like, a chart, numbers, but they would take like a red square or a black square and just highlight the numbers that they wanted us to look at. And that was very helpful. So, and that could be variation on how you do that and how you highlight the things you want to do, but numbers, yeah, they can be scary. And that's, I think that when we see a lot of numbers, it's our first opportunity to like check out, like, oh, this is too much. So you got to like keep our focus, like, don't lose me now. We're not going to commercial. Pay attention to this square, pay attention to that circle, and that bright shape. And look, explosions everywhere. Okay. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. Brady, what did you think?
I thought it was crazy how it takes like 500% more energy to count to 7 dots and 5. But then something you said was how we can't like comprehend what's on the screen when you're talking. And apart from speech class in high school, all of my teachers did that when we were taking notes. So like I'll be in math class and we have to write down everything he's doing while he's talking. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on still. So that was just another thing.
Brady, thank you very much. And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, as you go on in your long careers, you remember some of these things, because you will be like, people just don't take any information away from my presentation. They're like, what's wrong with them? And I think Brady's experience is not unique. I think that, and not to mention that I heard it from several of you. So if you find yourself in teaching profession, let's say, think about how you can show people things and talk through them at the same time. And what is your audience thinking at that moment? Yeah. Thank you, Brady. I appreciate it. Trina, what did you think?
Well, so I'm in my mid-20s and I've realized that I don't think a lot of people know how to use PowerPoint at all. And I'm kind of disappointed because yes, what I've learned in high school, of course, different, educators they have different criteria for assignments. Totally understand. And I think one of the basic rules that we learn is, hey, don't just read from the slide. Fantastic. I've utilized the notes in PowerPoint to express my talking points and all that too, to summarize it. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I feel a little disappointed actually. I'm waiting to see. I hope I can also do a good presentation one day if I need to make a PowerPoint, but I hope we can, well, we as a class, yes, but maybe we can teach others as well how to do better PowerPoints, because I'm a little disappointed. I don't know. My whole, like I said, I'm in my mid-20s. I don't think I've seen a good presentation now.
Well, let us all think on that. And right, but also think kindly of people. I think part of the problem is that we are really, a lot of us are like self-taught on PowerPoints. We kind of stumble into our own thing, and they're easy enough where you can kind of do that. But it's like some things in life where you wish people would take a course and they would figure out how to do something, because I mean, I think like social media, frankly, if you stand next to your friend and see how this self-taught, we're all self-taught social media users. There's no like, oh, watch video on how to use Facebook. We just kind of stumble through it. And you see that people have different ways, and people are being inefficient, and people are doing wrong things. And if you were standing there, like a lot of people could just take classes on how to use Facebook, but we're like self-taught. So it kind of works. And then you go, people, you don't know what you're doing.
No, that's why they go to Geek Squad to figure it out. It's fine.
Something like that. Right. But there's no Geek Squad for the PowerPoint. Take your PowerPoint to the nearest Office Max, and they will take it apart and explain to you why nobody's buying your stuff. That'd be good. Your PowerPoint tech specialist. Let's take apart your PowerPoint. It's hurt.
I did think a few people brought up good points, though. I think Peter said it. You're like, people are going to be focused on you, the presenter. So I think that's really important to remember as well.
Can I add something to that?
Why not?
Like PowerPoints, I also think there should be like some kind of course for like Excel, because there's so many different courses and like databases that use Excel, even at like work, different careers, and people use Excel for all these different things, and I've never had a course in it.
I will say this is one of the differences between university and like beyond. Curriculums take a while, long time to design, approve, and so on. Although it seems like you're right, Excel is a basic enough thing. But I think maybe because it's my guess, it's like proprietary software. So it's rather than teaching you how to use Microsoft product on like people's government, like your time kind of thing, public school. I think, although PowerPoint, just about, yeah, there are classes that people take. It's like, I'm just going to tell you, when you're done with school, the schooling, the learning for life isn't necessarily over, because you may be wanting to learn things like if you're into math or whatever, and you've sciences and you need to know Excel. You take classes outside because there are different businesses that like business model is teaching you those things that weren't taught to you before, like Excel, probably like PowerPoint. I haven't found one, but I'm sure there's classes you can take on that too. So there's little like fill in the gaps kind of stuff, as well as public speaking itself. I will use this opportunity to make a plug for Toastmasters. Raise your hand if you ever heard of Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a public speaking club. And for people that, if you're done with this class and you're like, I kind of want to know more about public speaking, then you can watch obviously YouTube and TED Talks, but that doesn't give you opportunity to practice. And then there's clubs called Toastmasters. They're worldwide, and people get together once, twice a month, whatever their schedule is, and they practice giving speeches to each other and giving feedback just based on how they spoke. Kind of what I'm trying to do here in this class. So I think it's and there's other option is Dale Carnegie courses. Dale Carnegie wrote about 100 years ago, really a couple of awesome books, like How to Start Living and Stop Worrying, and also How to Make Friends and Influence People. Really, really good stuff. But his courses are like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Yeah. And people do take that because they go, I really want to improve, because you become more successful. So yeah, it would be nice if there was an Excel class. Peter, I agree. Sorry for that rant there, but there was an opportunity to mention Toastmasters, and I do like to do that. That's where I learned, for instance, well, that in local politics about like time limits and having flags being raised for different times. So you go 3, 4, 5, like, oh, that's a good idea. Or like even feedback that you guys are all doing for each other. That's something that I learned in one of the clubs, because that's a really good idea. You want to get 20, 30 pieces of feedback instead of like, I think you are not as good, you know, whatever. So very good. I think Dan is the last one that hasn't mentioned his takeaway. Of course, Dan.
Sorry. One of the things that I have discovered, and this it brings up more in regards to it, is people have a tendency of putting too much technical information inside PowerPoints. And this has a tendency of basically glazing the audience's eyes over, and you end up losing them. I feel that through presenting something, you want your audience to have questions so that they come back to you and engage with you so you know more, or they know more. So, but I do see this. I do see too much technical information presented in PowerPoints. Like I said, it ends up tending to lose people in the audience.
That is really a couple of interesting points. First of all, we don't do enough of a job in this class of practicing answering questions. Just not something that has been a part of the curriculum, so to say, but it is an interesting idea. And I've seen at least, there's another quick plug for Enactus. If you are into social entrepreneurship, it's like a Shark Tank with community angle called ENACTUS. It's a league of college teams competing, like they're business students, and they compete with business plans and ideas that help communities become better communities. It's a really cool social entrepreneurship concept, and they present there, and they have limited amount of time, and then there's questions at the end. And question is a wonderful opportunity, exactly like Dan said, to come back to something that you didn't get to cover enough during your presentation, to expand on that and go, I'm so glad you asked me this question. And then you kind of go over that part. Dan, is that what you had to
do? Well, yeah, but it's not so much just that. Okay, it's after the fact, after you made the presentation, you want people to come back to you. You want people to be asking questions, because then you sparked their interest. And they want more information. They're interested. They want to gather more. They want to know what you can do for them, or what you can provide for them, or what you can give to them, or so on and so forth.
Okay, then I will say this. We as speakers want to raise curiosity of our audience. And part of the informative speech goal is so that people want to go out and learn more for themselves. So that's curiosity. A quick question for Dan. You said about using a lot of technical language can glaze eyes of the audience, but if you're speaking to an audience that should know this terminology well, do you still want to avoid using the terminology? Or if you're speaking to professionals, it's okay?
You avoid the technical questions unless they have a direct question back to you in regards to it. They want you to elaborate and expand on.
There you go. There's a life hack for everybody. Okay, very good. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. All right. At this point, for next week, I would like you guys, there's going to be one more video. Actually, I think we already talked about audience analysis last week, and audience analysis is important. So I think it's just going to be on actually main points, how to organize your main points. There's some ways to do that, which is going to be helpful to you as you're preparing for next week's. You're going to begin speeches next week. But also the TED Talk that you guys are going to watch for next week is another David J.P. Phillips, and that is on the magical science of storytelling. This is a way of looking at storytelling that I doubt you ever thought about. So again, really recommend, and then we'll discuss that. Well, I don't know if we're going to get to discuss it. Maybe we'll have like a commentary thread on Canvas, because we should really dive into speeches next week. So we're not going to have time to discuss that so much. Okay, that's that. then let's look at your outlines and how we're going to talk about them. Let's see, let me just play with Zoom here. All right, we're going to use the same approach because, okay, here's, by show of hands, raise your hand if you would be okay. Let's see, one hand or two hands. How about that? Do this. Raise one hand if you're comfortable with me discussing your outline in this group setting. Raise two hands if you would like to discuss your outline in private. Go ahead. All right. Then everyone but Moe, which voted differently, which is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Please, then Moe can stick around and then I'll talk to her one-on-one. Otherwise, and then I don't have to invent anything technological. Hallelujah. So otherwise, I was thinking of using my, like, I don't know how to create a breakout room on this thing. Does anybody know, by the way? Like, is this like a function I'm missing? How to create a breakout room? Because I've been in breakout rooms, but I've never been able to create one myself. So, all right. In that case, let's talk to you folks about your outlines just briefly. Let me pull up the, okay, class announcements. I'm going to say post, save. Okay. All right. Assignments and informative speech outline. All right. And speed grader.
Is it going to be in alphabetical order?
That's what I'm thinking. I think probably so. Yeah, Miss Zimmer, right?
Okay. I'm going to go get coffee then.
Okay, I was thinking reverse alphabetical order then, but let's see. Fine, go get coffee. Jarixa, are you here? See, this is how sometimes speeches can go. We think that there'll be somebody else. Jarixa, Jarixa is not there today. Okay. In that case, Sydney, are you there?
Yes.
Dang, Sydney, that was a really nice job. So I'm just gonna say you have a transition missing. So there you go. And please do not end this informative speech with a call to action. Instead, please end with a story, a fact, or quote. Really nice paper otherwise.
Thank you.
Yep. So if you can end with a, like I said, then I think that would be great. And really, it seems like things are pretty clear in your case. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's see. I can stop recording this. I think that's sufficient. Thank you very much. You've been watching class. So